Hi there. Hello. It's Jen. Different background today. I'm not at the beach. I wanted to do something a little bit different today. This is inspired actually by last week I had a coaching session with a lovely young man, and it brought to my attention something that's really, really important. One of the things we worked on, I talk a lot about positioning, but we worked a lot on a really basic fundamental with him that was just positioning yourself on the board, and how that's super important. So I wanted to actually share with you guys a couple little exercises that I find helpful. This is helpful for just surfing posture in general. I see a lot of, and I hear a lot of teachers and other coaches and instructors talk about arching your back, and one of the things that I found really interesting, and if I remember, I'll try to link his resources down below, but there's a fellow by the name of Rob Case who's also a surf coach, and he focuses specifically on paddling for surfing. And one of the things that I always really love and appreciate about Rob is that he always talks about having a natural curve to the spine. A natural curve. He always talks about not exaggerating an arch, keeping a natural curve. And it made me kind of like reflect, having this gentleman that I coached last weekend, realizing that a lot of us are actually not totally connected to what that is. And so this is what's inspired this video. I want to help to reconnect you with, and maybe just play with this. You know, this is for all levels of surfers, really. I want to share with you a little somatic exercise. And I use this to kind of explain and kind of reconnect us to what that natural curve like might look and feel like, and how it's different than the more like contrived or forced arch that can happen through our spine, which is what I believe, in my experience anyway, and the experience of a lot of my teachers and mentors, not just in surfing, but in movement and physical somatics, I guess. That's my background if you didn't know. It's something that I see that's in agreement with a lot of different teachers and mentors that I have, which often will cause things like injury. So, you know, Rob always talks about having proper technique and fundamentals for injury prevention. And here's the thing, is a lot of this stuff comes down to like developmental movement, stuff that we inherently have in our developmental movement patterns from human development. And that can get interrupted in different ways. Anyway, the whole point is I want to share with you a couple little exercises, and I hope it will help you in your positioning. And the other thing is I'm going to share some photos and images, because it was actually really difficult to find images of where I saw this like really poor posture. But basically, I'm going to see if I can find some and post them. But basically what I saw last week with my student was he had a really collapsed posture, and he had a really hard time with maintaining like a natural arch. And the problem with that collapsed arch or collapsed posture when we're actually laying on the board is that what happens is we put a lot of our head comes way more forward than we need to be, and we're not able to manipulate and subtly shift our weight on the board, which means often, you know, as a beginner, this leads to purling or nosediving a lot. And a lot of the different kind of like root problems of a lot of the issues that we have in surfing, whether it's our pop-up, whether it's purling, so many different things actually stem from even paddling position. Like, this is super, super fundamental, which is why I wanted to do this video. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna pause and shift the camera around and show you what I mean on the floor, okay?
So I wanted to give you guys a visual, but I also want you to be able to watch this whole and listen to this whole piece and then try play with the exercise just while listening to my voice. The reason is, and I apologize in advance, it's a loud street beside my living room and it's summer. So great natural light coming through my door, but also lots of sound. So my apologies in advance for that. Hopefully it still will work. But I really wanted to do, I wanted you to actually get the feel for what this movement feels like rather than what it's supposed to look like. And I think the thing is with the feel, when we have like a really collapsed spine, which is really pretty common, I guess, in our culture, you know, we talk about our posture and all that kind of stuff. I don't have time to get into all of the why and the what, but what I wanted to just share with you was just get a sense of reconnecting back to basically your body intelligence. So if you think about watching a baby, for example, and if you have a baby, if you've hung out with babies, if you watch them when they're starting to learn to, before they get to crawling stage, they kind of get into this stage of first they need to lift their head on their own, right? Most parents know this. So it's an innate movement that we learn. And the movement actually comes from how we relate to the floor, to the ground. And the way that I explain the sensation is to lean your belly into the floor. So what I actually invite you to do, what I invite my clients to do, what I try to focus on is actually just starting with your head like a neutral on the floor and just everything relaxed. So maybe you could be face down. You could have your face to the side. It really doesn't matter. And just breathe in and breathe out. Just like relax here. Let your body totally just be relaxed. And just start to tune into your natural breath. And what I just want you to notice is usually it's on the inhalations, our belly kind of puffs out a little bit and it kind of pushes into the floor. So I invite you just to like feel that sensation of just kind of pushing into the floor, pressure into the floor, and just notice what that feels like at first. And do this for a few moments. I'm going to move through a little bit way more quickly than I normally would. I also teach this in my yoga classes when I taught more regularly. But really, it comes from, again, babies and developmental movement, how we all learn to raise our head. And as you're pushing down, start to maybe exaggerate a little bit your inhales so that you're actually kind of pushing your belly down into the ground. And I don't know if you notice, but even as I do that, if you watch my spine, I'll do it again. As I do that, there's kind of almost this natural reflex where my spine and my whole back body kind of lifts off the floor naturally. If you feel that naturally, that's awesome. Keep playing with this kind of belly pushing into the floor for a moment and just play with it a little bit longer, really feel into that sensation. So that's step one is just the breathing. Step two is kind of exaggerating your breathing, actually pushing your belly into the floor a little bit. And step three is kind of like following that pushing with a bit of a weight in the belly. So I like to think about just really feeling like my belly is like leaning down into the floor. Or maybe it's landing down in your surfboard. You can see where I'm going with this. And as you kind of lean in, what happens is the body starts to kind of lengthen. And I'm actually, like, if you guys can see, my neck is like really soft and it's not like crunched in any way. Like my shoulders are relaxed.
But you can see even just by like leaning, intentionally leaning my belly down and kind of grounding my belly downwards, there's this lift and natural arc that happens in my back body. And this is where I really want you to, or invite you to explore, because this is where that natural arc that Rob Case talks about, this is where the natural arc for surfing and paddling comes from. It doesn't need to be exaggerated. It doesn't need to be like, as you see, like the more I kind of lift and lift my head, you can see like my neck gets way more crunched. And this is where we get like neck stress and we get weird stuff that happens in our back. And, you know, in terms of, so what happens often with beginner surfers is our legs kind of get splayed off the board and they're dragging off the board, and our paddling can be really collapsed. And what happens is in surfing, we really especially want our weight to be centered in the center of the board, okay? We want our feet to come together. We want this like nice long line, right? And the way that we get it, and I mean, you can see right now actually is a really good example. So I've got the nice long line going. There's no like, I mean, I can like kind of peel into my center a little bit more. I can wrap around and tighten my glutes a little bit and get a little bit more lift. But this is really coming from that fundamental movement of leaning my belly down, and my spine actually gets longer. It's not crunched and bunched together. If you look at my neck, like my neck has nice like length to it. Now, if I combine this with surfing, yeah, I'm gonna like, look a little bit. But, for example, if I'm paddling and I'm feeling a little tired, I'll kind of use my eyes to look ahead and I'll keep my neck kind of in this nice neutral space. And that is what we're really aiming for in our paddling. It does not need to be cranked up like this, right? And that length is actually what helps us to paddle, to get a really nice paddle. It also helps us, in our pop-up for setting up, we're bringing in our elbows, we're bringing in our hands towards our chest. We're getting this nice place to start to pop up from and really stand up from. It's also the place here where we're positioning the board. We have this like control. It comes from our center. That's one of the reasons why a lot of surf instructors always say, like, don't grab the rails or don't grab up here. Keep everything kind of tucked in, because you want your weight to be centered around your belly. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. And I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments. Let me know if you did this exercise. Let me know if you found it helpful. Let me know how your neck is doing. But I invite you to kind of check it out and play with it. And then play with it on the floor first. Once you kind of start to get connected to that, like your midline, your center line of your body, that's the other thing too, is as you kind of lean down, you start to connect with your middle. And that's actually what brings the legs in. It's not a forced, right? So one of the other tips, if you are beginner and you find that you're having a hard time with like balancing on the board, when you're having that like issue with balancing, often it's like a combination of maybe the board, but it's also usually our sense of like where we somatically feel where our center is. So as we're kind of reconnecting to center and rediscovering, I usually recommend for people who are struggling with balance to actually keep your feet on the tail of the surfboard while you lean your belly in. And then you have like a little extra point of stability. So as you're kind of getting that place of extension and muscle memory, the legs will naturally start to come together. It's just inevitable. It's like connecting your middle together, right? Without having to tension, without having to work hard, and without risking, long-term future injury. This is to me, it's a more sustainable approach to movement and surfing. So, I mean, I want to be surfing
for a good long time. good long time. I don't know about you. So I hope you found this helpful. If you do, please make sure to like this video. If you love the content, please subscribe and support my channel. You can also find me, actually just my name on Instagram, Jenn Plotnikoff. I randomly post things. I usually post all the surf content here on YouTube. So if you love the things, please share the love and let me know. And also comment below. Let me know what your experience is. Let me know if you tried this, how it was. I'd love to hear from you. All right. Ciao. Mwah.